guys, it's Ciara and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the third instalment of my back to school series, and I'm going to be talking about how to prepare for year 11 before you go back to school. The first thing I would say is make sure you have all your stationery and your revision resources. This is really important as you're not really going to be able to get by well without them. Obviously you're going to need a pencil case with pens, highlighters, pencils, all those kinds of things. Make sure you also have a math set and a calculator, probably the Casio, whatever you want to call them ones. They're the best and probably the most recommended ones and most widely used ones, especially for maths. And if you do business and obviously science as well, then you're going to need a really good scientific calculator. Also, I'd recommend getting an academic planner. I personally didn't use one in year 10 or 11, but I'm going to start college in a few weeks' time, and I've got myself the Ink Outside the Box one by Jack Edwards. A lot of schools do give out academic planners to each year group every year, but some also don't. I did get given one at the start of year 7, 8 and 9, however in year 10 and 11 we weren't given them. I don't know why. I think our school just decided to stop giving them out because nobody really used them and utilised them anyway. But if you know that you're going to stick to it and be organised, then I definitely recommend getting one. It's going to make your life so much easier when you've got homework deadlines, exams coming up, or even personal events outside of school. It's really good to be able to organise them, know when they're all happening so you don't clash things, and also so you don't forget about things too. If you're somebody who thinks you're not going to be organised enough to actually stick to the academic planner and actually use it, then I would recommend getting a wall planner. I have this Ink Outside the Box one from Jack Edwards' new collection, and I would highly recommend it. It literally is just a wall calendar, but you can put all the information you need to know on it, all the dates, so you have things that you need to remember so that you're organised, but at the same time you don't have to carry a book around everywhere. It's just visually on your wall. They're only £10 and I'd really recommend getting one, and it can really help you stay organised if you don't want to go to all the effort of having to fill in an academic diary every day. Included in stationery is also blank flashcards. You're going to need a lot of flashcards in year 10 and 11, specifically year 11, and then again you'll probably utilise them a lot when you do your A-levels as well. Even if you're not the type of person that revises with flashcards, it's really good to have some just in case. You never know when you're going to want to start using them, and they're really good for learning key terms or learning lots of chunks of definition that you have to memorise. For example, if you do a language like German, French, Spanish, and you need to memorise paragraphs to say in a speaking exam, I find that using a big flashcard and writing them out and then memorising it from that is really helpful. This is optional, but if you want to, you can also get a notebook. I'd highly recommend the Oxford Campus notebooks because you can also take a picture of them and scan them onto your phone so that you've got them on your phone and your laptop if you have one, iPad, anything like that, so they're digitally saved and you've got them physically. I've only just discovered these notebooks, but I'm sure I'm going to live by them when I'm in college. And you can use them to do all of your revision, or you can write up notes in class. I know that you probably have an exercise book that you're given by your school, but if you want to have a book that you can bring home with you to revise from, then you can write up notes in there too. Moving on to revision resources, you're obviously going to need your revision guides. If you don't have them all already, please make sure that you've got all your revision guides for the start of year 11. You're going to use them a lot. I'm actually selling all of my revision guides for all of my subjects on my Depop at the moment. If you want to go check it out, the link is in my description. I am posting them for a lot lower than recommended retail price, and if you want to, you can buy them in a bundle and I can make it a little bit cheaper for you if you like. It's a win-win situation really. I get a little bit of money, which I really need at the moment, and you get some revision materials for really cheap. I don't see a problem with it. I don't know why you aren't already there buying them. Get them in your basket now. You can buy textbooks as well if you like, however I wouldn't really recommend it considering you are probably given them to use during lessons at school. I didn't really use any textbooks at home or anything. There'd be the odd time where a teacher was like, you have to take the textbook home with you so that you can do questions at home or anything like that, or take a picture of the book so that you can revise something from it. But I wouldn't recommend buying textbooks because some of them can be like 25-30 quid, and I just think it's a bit unnecessary. And the revision guide and YouTube is all you really need for revision anyway, so I wouldn't bother spending any money that you don't need to. Next thing I would say is to get a printer if you don't already have one. You don't even need to have a computer or a laptop to be able to use a printer. You can actually print from your phone using wireless printing. I found this really helpful. When you're in year 11, you're going to be printing off lots of revision resources, worksheets, homework sheets that you've got to do that you've been emailed, anything like that. You're going to want to be able to put things in your folder, and if you don't have a printer and you have to wait till Monday to go to school and print them off, it's not really very convenient. They're not really expensive. You can get a good printer for about 50-60 quid. That's what I got, and ever since I got one I've been using it so much to print off all of my revisions, specifications, things I need to put in my folder, and they're really good investment if you could get one. Next thing I would say is make sure that you have a workspace at home dedicated and cleared before the start of the year. If you'd like a desk, then I'd highly recommend the Mickey desk from IKEA. I think it was about £60 for the bottom half and possibly £40 for the top half. I might be wrong, but I will put a picture of it on the screen. If a desk isn't for you, then you can just sit at the kitchen table or dining table. That's a really good solution, and that's what a lot of people do, but I'd say if you got the money to get a desk, I would invest in one, and then you can keep it in your room and do anything at it. You don't need to just use it for revision, you can really use it for anything. I sit at my desk and watch Netflix and do live streams on Instagram, make TikToks, you know, like I don't just use it for revision, and it is a really good investment to have one in your room. Next thing I would say is set goals for the term and for the entirety of year 11. It's really important to set goals so that you know what you're trying to achieve, and you're not just being like, oh, I want to get a higher grade. You need to know what you're trying to achieve so that you can plan out what you need to do to achieve it. I think this is really important to not only track your progress, but also make sure that you are happy with how you're doing and that you are working towards the grades that you want to get and that you're achieving what you want to. Another thing I would say is work on your sleep schedule. I think this is really important, especially the few weeks leading up to going back to school. You're going to need to make sure that you're getting enough sleep so that when you go back to school and you have to go to bed a little bit earlier and wake up a little bit earlier, it's not going to hit you as hard and you're going to ease yourself into it a bit more. So start going to bed about an hour before you are now, and then gradually work it down to the time that you're going to have to go to sleep when you have school. And then the same with waking up in the morning. I know it's not the best thing in the world having to think about waking up early again, but if you get yourself into a good routine, it's going to make the transition a lot easier. The next thing I would say is organise the non-academic side of your life before you start year 11 so that it's not getting in the way. This could be friendships, relationships, personal things, family things, literally anything that isn't to do with school that you feel like could get in the way of your schoolwork. I'd try and make sure that you're happy with it and you're in a neutral or a good place before you start year 11 so that it's not getting in the way of your studying and not tearing you down when you're meant to be working really hard to get the grades that you deserve. The next thing I would say is try and look over some of the year 10 content from all of your subjects and make sure you know it. You'll more than likely go over it in class anyway, but if you know it, you can focus on learning the new content rather than revising the old stuff that you already know. I wouldn't recommend trying to teach yourself any of the year 11 content that you haven't been taught yet, because you'll just confuse yourself and it's not the ideal situation to put yourself in. It's like how I am not going to try and learn any of my A-level content before my A-levels start. I'm just going to go in with an organised mind and know that I'm ready to learn, but not that I've tried to teach myself it already, because I've seen some videos on YouTube where people have said they've gone into A-levels and like tried to teach themselves A-level chemistry during the summer, and it caused more problems and did more harm than it did good. So I'd say the exact same thing about this. Although the content isn't as hard as it would be at A-level, it's definitely, I think, a bad idea to try and teach yourself it, because you're not going to understand, and even if you do understand, there may be trickier concepts that you won't understand and you'll just confuse yourself because you've not learnt the basics securely enough, because you've not been taught it by a teacher. So I'd just wait until year 11 starts before you start learning any of the new content and just do it in class and then revise it, rather than trying to learn it before you go into the lesson and then acting like you're revising it in the lesson, because it's not going to help you out, and also it's just a waste of time because then you're just learning it twice and it's a bit pointless. Another thing I would say is look at your specifications for all of your subjects. For some exam boards this may be easier than others. For example, on the AQA exam board's website they have a page for a specification at a glance, which is basically a summarised version of the specification. These are really useful, and you can type them up like I did to put them in the front of your folder so that you know all the topics that you're going to need to know. However, other exam boards like OCR, EdXL and WJEC have a specification that's just one big document that you need to look through. You don't need to print out the whole specification, and honestly I would not recommend it, but you need to find the key sheets within the document. So find the pages that tell you how you're going to be assessed, find the pages that tell you what's in each exam, if there's any coursework, and what topics you're going to be learning. This isn't essential, but I would say that knowing and looking at all this information will be really beneficial to you, as you'll know it and you won't need to look for it in the future. The last thing I want to talk about is putting your folders together. Now, if you know me or you've seen my channel at all before, you'll know that folder organisation is something I'm very passionate about, and my folders are my babies and my pride and joy. So you can either make one big lever arch folder for all of your topics together and put all of your content in one folder, or you can have a separate folder for each subject, which is what I did. As you've already done half of the course, you'll have a lot of work already, so I'd suggest making a folder and putting in a summarised version of the specification, dividers for each of the topics, and all of the work that you did in year 10. If you've misplaced your year 10 work or you don't think it's at a good enough standard to be put into a folder, then I'd recommend going to try Physics and Maths Tutor, which is a website that provides lots of, not just for physics and maths, but a lot of subjects across A-level and GCSE. Look on there for some notes and some topic overviews. I use their notes a lot for English literature and for sciences. And I honestly don't know what I would have done without them. Really, really good, informative notes, summarised as well, so you only get given the key information. And I would print off all of those topic summaries and notes, and I would put them into a folder. If you've seen my How I Revise for GCSE Science video, which at the moment is actually doing quite well, so I'm very happy about that, then you would know that I have notes for each topic in that folder in different dividers in order, so that they're really easy to find. And I'd really recommend doing this. You can use your own notes, which is probably the best thing, because it means you've written them out or you've typed them out so that you know what they are, and you're not just putting stuff in the folder that you think you're going to need in the future. You're putting stuff in there that you know ready to revise. If your subject / exam board / topic is not on Physics and Maths Tutor, I'd try a website called TES. I don't know if that is pronounced TES or anything, but it's in capital letters, so I'm just going to say TES. It's meant for teachers to actually have teaching resources, but I used it a lot throughout GCSE and I'm planning to use it at A-level. I've already looked on there and it's amazing. Just type in your subject, your exam board, and then GCSE, and you'll get so many resources on there that are meant for teachers to use to hand out to their students or to use as a handout in class. However, I use them for revision materials and a lot of them are really, really good. I'll link it down in the description and I hope you find some really helpful stuff on there. However, if you haven't misplaced your notes, then I would put them into your folder. You can either neatly type them up, neatly write them up, or if they're in a good enough state and a good enough standard, then you can just put them straight into your folder and you don't have to do any more. However, if you have a laptop or a computer, I'd highly recommend typing up your notes. They're a lot neater, and then after you finish your GCSEs you can sell them because they're not in a handwriting that some people might not be able to read. You may not have done much revision in year 10 or made any notes, so I'd recommend getting your subject exercise book that you do your work in class and just typing up and writing up some of those and putting them in your folder, because they are really useful and you wrote them for a reason, so why not utilise them? Don't just throw that book away. It might even be really, really helpful towards your revision. If you don't want to make a folder because you're not really dedicated to the subject, then at least get a wallet to put in all of your worksheets and revision so that you don't lose it and so that you know where to find it. There's nothing worse than having to go revise for an exam and not having anything to revise with. The very last thing I'm going to say is make sure you know which websites and YouTube channels you're going to use for your revision. For example, for science you can use Free Science Lessons or Primrose Kitten on YouTube. For maths you can use Corbett Maths, Maths Watch, Maths Genie, all those kinds of websites that you've probably heard about and used before. For English you've got the icon that is Mr. Bruff. For business there is BizConsesh. There is so many that I could list and they are all on YouTube and free to use, so I would utilise them to the best of your ability. If you want more information about the YouTube channels that I used and the websites, I would click on the link above, as I go into a lot more depth and explain all the YouTube channels and websites I used for each subject. Now I really hope you found this video helpful and feel a little bit more prepared for year 11. Remember, don't stress, stay organised and try and enjoy your last year of secondary education. If you ever need any help, advice, or just have a question that you'd like to ask to a former GCSE student, please don't hesitate to contact me on either my email or my socials, which are all in the description except my Instagram usernames, which will be on the screen now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I am so close to 300 subscribers and I'm so excited to hit that milestone. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!